my name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup. Today we're going to be talking about a couple of items from Auric. Auric is a brand that was started by Samantha Ravindal, the pretty big YouTuber, and I passed on these when they initially launched, and then I heard some really good things from friends who had picked them up. So, one of our Clubhouse chats. So if you haven't joined us yet for Clubhouse, check that out. I'll leave the information down below. We're the All Things Luxury Beauty Club. Everybody's welcome. But anyway, because of those chats, I ended up deciding that I wanted to try the line. And when Morganite, the lightest shade, was just restocked in the Glow Lust, which is what I'm holding, I decided to pick that up. Now, the original Morganite that came out in the first place is a slightly different shade than this one. They listened to some feedback and made a few changes. I'm not exactly sure what those changes were, but let's start talking about the packaging. Now, first of all, the Glow Lust comes in a box like this. I think the packaging, just the design on this is really pretty. So I think that's a great deal. Now, just one thing to know, this is a Canadian brand, so you're ordering from Canada, and yes, if you're in the US, there is shipping. So this is the box for the Glow Lust. You've got all of the ingredients. It's 35 milliliters or 1.18 fluid ounces. This is cruelty-free, vegan, never tested on animals, gluten-free, fragrance-free, and paraben-free. And what it says is highlight, smooth, hydrate. Innovative polymers brighten and hydrate dull skin for a healthy, natural glow. Wear alone, mix with complexion products, or finish your look for a long-lasting radiance. So personally for me, I like to wear this under or over foundation as a highlighter. I don't use it all over as a base product, but I do know a lot of people who do. And they love it that way. So it's definitely a great way to do that. Now today I have a little demo showing you my application today underneath and over foundation, which again is my preference. So the actual packaging of this, you've got a frosted glass bottle here. By the way, this is made in Italy. And then you've got like this dripping gold for the cap here. The cap is a little snug at first, and but that'll loosen up over time the more you use it. And you have a pump bottle, which I think is great. So here is Morganite, and let me show you what that looks like. So as you start spreading it out, this is what it looks like. And then we'll leave that bigger and spread that out. So you can see that it's not going to be quite as luminizing as some glow products that seem to be similar to this, and we will compare a couple of those. Now, the other item I picked up is one of the eyeshadow duos, and these are very much like the Tom Ford eyeshadow duos. You've got a heavy-duty glass jar down here, frosted glass, and then you do have a little cover to help keep it, fresh longer, and this is the cream shadow. And let me just show you how bouncy this is just from touching it. You see that? So it's similar in texture to the Tom Fords. Some of the Tom Fords that I have are a little bit bouncier than this, but this feels like one of the shadows from Tom Ford, essentially. So let me just show you what this one looks like. So this is the cream, and this is the Ego shade that I have here. So here's the cream. All right, so this closes securely. You can see, that it's definitely a tight fit. And then this part up here, you've got a little mirror, and this is going to be your powder or topper shade. So this is the topper. Again, this duo, these are called the Smoke Reflect duos, and this is the Ego shade. So here is the topper. So you can see that the smoke shade is kind of like it's like a gunmetal gray with a touch of green in it. And then this is going to be a cooler tone gold. So it's like almost a mix of silver and gold together. Okay, so there's another swatch of the cream. That one's a little bit deeper, so you can see it kind of layered a little bit more. And then let's put the topper on top of that. And that's what it's gonna look like. So I do feel like when they combine, you get more of that grayish, greenish look to it. You can see a little bit more of the green when you put the topper on top. And the sparkle that I see is really more of a pale champagne gold. All right, so let me go ahead and share the demo with you now for both the Glow Lust and for the Eye Duo. And then I'll come back, we'll go over some quick comparisons and my thoughts. Starting off with the Surratt Perfectioniste Primer, and I'm gonna put this on. And then we're going to use the Auric Glow Lust, and we'll put that on underneath foundation, and I will also show you what that looks like on top of foundation so you can see kind of how it works both ways. So let's move into the Auric, and I have the lightest shade, Morganite. So I'm just gonna get a little bit here on my hand, and we're just gonna kind of tap this in. And then I'm using a clean finger here to just kind of spread that out a little bit. Now, since this is going on under foundation, totally fine to have it be a little bit more, vibrant. You don't have to blend it out necessarily all the way for shade purposes. Obviously you don't want any product gathered there or it'll just spread when you're putting on the foundation, but you know what I mean. So we're just gonna put some there, and then let's add foundation. For foundation today, I'm taking the Koh Gen Do Aqua foundation in 012. So here is that. You can see it is a thinner serum foundation. Just gonna put this on. And I'm using the Koh Gen Do buffing brush here. So just kind of patting this in right at the moment. And when I'm going on top of the Auric here, I do want to do more of a pouncing motion. You can kind of swipe, but I like to pounce on first, so I have kind of a bit of a base layer of foundation there, and then kind of swipe any product that is kind of there on top, if that makes sense. So it just helps prevent any sort of movement of the Auric as well. But it does, at least on me, it moves a little bit when I'm buffing foundation in. Not a ton, but just enough that I prefer kind of buffing it into place first. Just gonna add a little bit more to my cheeks and then we'll be done with this. All right, so here's the Auric, and you can still see it through the foundation. It gives you more of that natural glow. Let me back you up so you can see that from a distance. So here's the Auric. So you can definitely see, there's some vibrancy, some luminescence on the upper part of my cheeks, but it doesn't look like overly pearly or made up. It looks more natural. Now I'm just going to put a little bit of this on top as well. And you can see how small of amount I'm taking here. We're just gonna kind of pat this on. Just make it a little bit more intense. So here it is compared to the side underneath. So just gonna apply a little bit over here as well. Got an eyelash. All right, so this definitely will kind of amp it up if you put it on top, but yet it still doesn't look like overly disco ballish or anything like that. So here it is from a distance, and you can definitely see that there is more radiance having it on top. So we're gonna go into the Smoke Reflect. This is the Ego shade, and I have used this before. This is not my first time. You can kind of blend this out with a finger and just get kind of a, easy application this way. You can build this up. I used a very tiny bit at first there, which I personally prefer using smaller layers. So you can do that. Now for me, I'm not great at using my fingers. So we're gonna go in with this is the Jumbo Concealer from Sonia G. So I'm gonna just get a little bit of product on here And then we're gonna just kind of apply this. So you can see that gives me a really soft blend in the crease there. And it looks very even. Now, obviously you can wear this just as is, but we are going to top it as well. Let me just do the other eye. All right, so there is the cream shadow on both lids. Just something to note, this cream, it doesn't really like set on its own. So, you know, if you just use the cream, you go in, you rub your eye or whatever, you are moving the product. Now the topper here, again, you can use your finger or a brush. We're gonna start off with the finger here and just like to kind of tap this on. If you use a brush, you get a lighter layer of this and, you know, not quite as intense. I'll show you with the same brush. So I'm not sure how evident it is, but technically there's more product on the eye with my finger. So there's a little bit more sparkle. The sparkle's more diffuse on the eye that I use the brush. But I'm going to finish off both eyes with the brush, just to keep everything consistent. And I personally just like using brushes because I feel like I am able to really be sure that I'm getting everything even. With my finger, my fingers are bigger. All right, so there is the Ego Duo, and I'm just gonna finish off the lash line. Taking the Sonyeji Flat Definer from the Kiyaki set, and I'm gonna just get a little bit of this of the cream shadow on here. So just gonna get some on here. And then sometimes when you get a cream shadow on there, you know, it kind of gets a little like bumpy at the top, you know, it's like little clumps. So I just wiped it on my hand just to make sure that it is, you know, gonna be smooth. Right, and then just taking the side of the flat definer in the powder and just gonna get this in our corner here. And there we go. So I'm just gonna add some gray eyeliner to the upper lash line and then mascara. So I hope that was helpful. And let's take a look at the shadows first. So I don't really have any of the shadows like this, but I do want to compare the Tom Ford Sunless Duo with these because, you know, although the colors are different, I want you to be able to see the texture. So here's the texture. You can see that this one is creamier. It's not like, it's a little bit more moussey in texture. So here's the black shade. And then this is the topper. So it's a gold topper. And I'm just gonna put this on this part here so you can kind of see what it would look like. I mean, obviously the colors are not the same. The texture of the topper though, they do feel very much alike texturally. And here, I'll just put that one right there. So it's just the topper. Now, putting them on, I do feel that the Auric topper is a little bit more densely sparkly, if that makes sense. So if in the demo, you saw me use my finger and you saw me use a brush to apply them. And when I used my finger and the brush, they were pretty close, right? Pretty close in the amount of density of sparkles that you would see. However, with the Tom Ford, there's a much more drastic difference between them. So perhaps it's a slightly harder pressed. It doesn't really feel that way, but you know, there's something there that makes a bigger difference if you're using a brush with the Tom Ford versus a finger compared to using a brush versus a finger with the Auric, if that makes sense. Overall, once you kind of pack them on, they look the same and have the same amount of sparkle. So not sure if that makes sense, but hopefully it does. So that's kind of what that one's gonna look like. Let me add a little bit more of the topper there. So let's just add some more. One other thing to note between the packaging designs for these, the Tom Ford is plastic, so you've got clear plastic, and this is plastic as well. Whereas the Auric, you've got the black is plastic here, but this is frosted glass, so this is going to be heavier. Size-wise, you can see that the containers are similar, but the Tom Ford is a little bit wider. I am not sure on the actual ounces inside. I'll have to double check and see what the Tom Ford is, so I'll run that on the bottom of the screen. So overall for this eye duo, I think it performs really well. I have worn it a couple of times already. It stays put throughout the day. If I don't set the cream with some of the topper, yes, I do have creasing then. But if I do fully set it with the topper shade, it does hold up. I think it's a gorgeous color. I really like this color. Is it a totally unique product? Obviously not, since the Tom Ford is very similar, but I do think it's really nice. And the color options for this, like, I really like this color story. So I'm happy with the purchase for that. Let's take a look at the Glow Lust. I'm gonna put this on my arm here as well. And we're gonna just kind of spread this over. And then we'll buff out this side a little bit for comparison purposes. So first up, we have the Flawless Filter from Charlotte Tilbury, and this is going to be in shade number 1, Fair. And you can see right off the bat that the Charlotte Tilbury is a little bit more yellow in tone, just slightly more golden. But they do look fairly similar. Now, texturally, they are a little bit different. They both feel very creamy. The Charlotte Tilbury, I feel like, is a little bit pearlier in real life than the Auric. I'm not sure how well that translates on the camera, but I do think the Charlotte Tilbury just has a little bit more pearlescence to it. And it just, for me, it looks more vibrant on my skin. Like, I see more of that pearly effect with the Charlotte Tilbury. Now, texturally, I feel like both formulas feel very similarly when you go ahead and you swatch them, when you put them on your skin. But as you're actually smoothing that product onto your skin, I feel like the Auric kind of sinks in a little bit more and it feels more lightweight on the skin than the Charlotte Tilbury. The Charlotte Tilbury, I can kind of feel that on my skin a little bit, if that makes sense. Like, it's a little bit, maybe like more tightly knit, if that makes sense. And I do feel like this gives me more of that pearly radiance than I get from the Auric, which just looks a little bit more natural. And again, you can pile that on to get that a little bit more radiant as well. But if you are comparing, I still feel like this one is a bit more radiant in the Charlotte Tilbury. So I think that's gonna be my most similar match, but let's take a look at a couple others. We're gonna take a look at the Chanel Rosy Light Drops. And this does come in other shades. I only have the Rosy Light Drop ones. This color is obviously going to be very different. You can see that this formula is much thinner. This is like very watery in comparison. This one, you can get this light enough that I actually like to put this under my eyes. And, you can use it on top or underneath, but you're not going to get the same effect as you would with the Auric or the Charlotte Tilbury. Those are definitely a lot more intense. So I feel like the Chanel, it's a lot thinner, it's more serum-like, but it's also going to, not be as intense. Now, just a note, the Chanel and the Auric are both pump bottles. The Charlotte Tilbury, as we saw, has a big doe foot applicator. And then I also have a couple of the By Terry Brightening CC serums. So this one here is Immaculate Light. Again, these are a pump as well. And this comes in several different shades. I would say texturally, this is also going to be like a thin formula, but not as thin as the Chanel. So it's a little bit thicker than the Chanel. And this one is also going to be more subtle on the skin than the Auric or the Charlotte Tilbury, in my opinion. I do have one more shade of this. This is the Starlight Rose, and sorry for my scab there. Hopefully you can still see that. Let me put that over here too. But you can see how much more subtle these are compared to either the Morganite or the Flawless Filter. So it depends what you're looking for and what your intended purpose is for this product. But I do think that the Auric Glow Lust is a really nice option. And one more product that I almost forgot to compare, this is the Lisa Eldridge highlighter in Crystal Nebula. So this comes with a doe foot like the Charlotte Tilbury. We're gonna put this one here. And I went with the Crystal Nebula because it's most similar in color to Morganite, but you can see that it is more golden. I do feel like, you know, these work similarly on the skin. I don't know if the polymers that they used are similar or not, but to me, they seem like they are. And I do feel like the Lisa Eldridge, the formula is slightly thinner in consistency, and you can see that radiance, they're just both going to give you a different kind of luminescence, but they are going to be similar. I feel like the Lisa Eldridge is still just slightly blingier, but that might also be an aspect of the shade because it is a little bit deeper on my skin tone compared to the Auric, which really, you know, there are several shades there to kind of find a match for your particular skin tone, you know, something that will give you that more natural glow. So it's kind of a difference. Another thing to know is the Lisa Eldridge is considered a true highlighter, whereas the Auric product, you know, that can be used as a base product as well. So it's kind of a slightly different functionality with that, depending on how you'd like to use it. But if you're using both of them straight up as a highlighter, I do feel like the Lisa Eldridge stands out just a little bit more. Now, as for my thoughts on these products, I already mentioned I like these eyeshadows. They perform well on me. I like the colors. You know, there's something that I would pick up again. You know, I don't think they're that different from other products like this, like the Tom Ford. So if, you know, it's harder for you to access purchasing these or something like that, you know, I don't think you're necessarily missing out by not picking those up personally. And then the Auric Glow Lust, I do think this is a really nice product. And I think it depends what you are looking for. You know, there are definitely products out there that, in my opinion, are very similar. But I do think that this one is just a little bit nicer than the other ones that I have. So for me, I think the most comparable product is the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. However, for me, that's a little bit too blingy. It's a little bit too vibrant, so I don't use it very often. And then when we go into the highlighter category, I think the Lisa Eldridge is the most similar, but because that one is also a little bit of a stronger radiance there, I feel more comfortable using that straight up as a highlighter underneath foundation, whereas this, you know, is a little bit more subtle and I could actually mix that into my foundation or whatever. So I just feel like the Auric is slightly more versatile, and although there are products like this on the line, I do feel like this one was done just you know, it's got some little touches to it that just make it a little bit nicer. Now, if you use these types of glowy luminizer products, these liquid products a lot, then, you know, it might be worth you going out to pick this one up. And so all in all, I like both of these products. I think they are very nice, definitely worth looking into if these are things that pique your interest. And thank you so much for tuning in. So if you enjoyed this or you found it helpful, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you very soon. Have a great day.